Are you an avid golfer looking for an exclusive golf course community for your family? If so, we're going to be talking about Bluejack Ranch, and I'm going to be giving you a late 2025 update with everything I know. And if you saw my last video about Bluejack Ranch, this is going to be particularly helpful because there was a lot of information that wasn't available and I didn't have. And so we're going to be covering all the new information and particularly giving you updates on pricing. So before we go any further, what even is Bluejack Ranch? It's gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be a high-end, exclusive, private golf course community in Aledo ISD. It's gonna be golf first and a lot of other really cool things with it. I'm actually gonna pull this up so I can kind of like read through all the cool stuff that they have. It's gonna have a working dude ranch, a wellness center, championship golf course, 10-hole short course, golf performance and practice areas, entertainment performance hall, film, TV, and podcast studios, pools, tennis courts, pickleball courts, clubhouse, dining, comfort stations, 24/7 gated security. It's gonna have spa retreats, ranch cabins, lake villas, and all sorts of really, really cool stuff. And so it's going to be awesome. It's going to be one of the premier golf course communities in all of DFW. But one important thing to note, we'll touch on more in detail later in the video, is that the golf club is by invite only. Ownership of a property in the neighborhood does not guarantee that you are allowed to pay them for your membership. So that's important to note. There should be multiple tiers of membership, so that might play into it. That's a really quick overview. There's gonna be a lot of cool stuff there. I'm really excited to see what the Working Dude Ranch looks like. The fact they're gonna have a podcast and TV production, that's really interesting. None of that stuff may be super applied to you, but it's gonna be a really cool neighborhood that I'm excited to see it get built out. And so let's jump into the rest of the content. Okay, so we've covered what it is briefly. Let's talk about where it is before we dive into the neighborhood. So where is Bluejack Ranch? It is actually gonna be adjacent to Kelly Ranch. There's a backstory to that I'm really not gonna get into in this video, but you can look at, I think it was Avanzada was supposed to be what was going on. Something happened with that developer and we ended up with what we got, right? Which I think is probably better than maybe what we were gonna get. But you're gonna be in the southern portion of the Aledo ISD attendance zone. So you're gonna be way down south off 377 near Kelly Ranch and Kelly Road. And so you're gonna be 25-ish minutes from downtown Fort Worth. You're gonna be maybe 20 minutes from the high school. Now, one of the benefits of being this far south is that you don't have to go up Bear Creek Road to get into town. You can go up Kelly Road to 1187 and get into the downtown Aledo area where you've got, your schools like Vandergrift and Aledo Middle and Aledo High School. And it's gonna be a really cool place. They should eventually, but they don't have it now. When we talk about location, shopping's kind of rough right now in that area, but we're not gonna talk about this later in the video, so I'm gonna talk about it now, is that there should be developing, like the Bluejack developers are developing a commercial center similar to Clear Fork in Fort Worth. So if they do that and they do that well, that would be an amazing anchor for everyone in the 377 South Aledo corridor that I think would draw a ton of people from Kelly Ranch, from Bluejack, from Maverick, from the Bear Creek neighborhoods to everything in the south part of Aledo. You got Maravilla, even La Madera that they can get in there. So that could be a great pull for that location. And so let's jump into the neighborhood now. Okay, now as we actually jump into the neighborhood, let's talk about the product ladder of what's going to be available before we go further. And so they have a number of different product types. They're going to have what they call the racket retreats, the horseshoe cabins, the horseshoe homes, and then they'll have the estate home sites. So the three smaller products that are not the estate home sites are considered semi-custom, meaning that you'll most likely be able to pick out, a variety of finishes, interior touches, cosmetics, stuff like that. So your racket retreats are going to be about 2,300 square feet. They're going to be 2-bed, 2.5 bath with a loft, and they're going to have like a golf cart kind of cover porte-cochere that you can park a golf cart in, and they're going to start at 1.25 million, right? So that's a benefit of buying earlier, is that you get the base prices and not the increased prices. Next, you have horseshoe cabins, and the price point jumps significantly. We'll get to that in a second. But those are going to be 4-bed, 4.5 bath. So think like going from like a small, almost condo style setup. Maybe maybe your racket retreats maybe those end up being primarily second homes or older retirees that don't want a bunch of space. But your horseshoe cabins move up significantly. So those are going to be 3,200 square feet approximately, 4 bed, 4.5 bath. They're going to have a full 2-car garage plus golf cart storage. So this is going to be maybe people who are, this is a primary residence. Maybe there's going to be a bunch of secondary homes here as well, but price point's going to be 2.1 million plus on those. Then you have your horseshoe homes. So getting up a little bit larger, these are looking at maybe 3,850, 4,000 square feet plus, 5 bed, 5.5 bath. These I would expect to be more like families, right? Like if you have 5 beds, you're probably bringing some kids with you. Again, 2-car garage and a golf cart storage. These are looking to be around 2.5 million plus. And then you have the estate home sites where you're gonna have to buy your lot and then you're building your home. And those lot sizes will range from about 0.4 to about 0.85. We'll get to more about on the lots in a moment, but you'd be buying your lot and then you'd be custom building within their restrictions and their guidelines, however you want it. And all these are supposed to have golf course views. And then something important to note is that there's only certain architectural styles they're allowing on these custom homes. So you have Napa Ranch, Hill Country Classic, San Miguel Estancia. I couldn't describe those to you if I wanted to. So hopefully I have some pictures up here that you can take a look at as I'm talking. But there's going to be some really nice homes here. And that's the product ladder. So that's something to be important to know about. And stick around through the end of the video because we're going to talk about carrying costs. We're going to talk about lots. We're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about like is this neighborhood the best fit for? So if this is your first time on the channel, hit the subscribe button. And if you already have a trip planned out here and you're thinking about Bluejack, reach out to me beforehand. There is some private information that I'm really not supposed to share that could be variable, right? All those prices I just said are probably going to go up. So you could be watching this video in the future and they're not accurate anymore. But reach out. Let's make sure we have time on the calendar. Make sure that we can get a scheduled tour for you to go check out the lots or the property or the homes, because that's going to be super important for you to actually see it and experience it while you're here if you're considering Bluejack Ranch. Okay, so let's talk about lots and availability and pricing real quick, because this was actually something that was the most surprising to me, was just the price point of the lots. And now these are going to be more the estate lots that you're looking for, right? Because they're building the other stuff separately. But if you want your own lot that you can do a semi-custom home on, or they say full custom, but we'll get to that. We're touching on that in multiple different areas. You're looking at about a 0.4 acre lot starting at around $750,000. You're looking at 0.6 acre lots looking at being between $1.2 and $1.3 million. You're like, well, that's like almost double the price for like 50% more. It's not just about the square footage of the lot. It's probably about position, view, like where it is, like on the golf course maybe, and some different stuff. So you are looking at some pretty significant prices for these lots. And I did have a client reaching out asking about, they wanted a 1+ acre lot. They wanted to bring their own builder, which we'll touch on in a second, but they wanted a 1 acre lot. And so I was talking with, the developer sales manager, and they really don't have any 1 acre lots for the foreseeable future. The closest thing they could get was a 0.85 acre lot that will be released in phase 2. So they're kind of like offering a few things in pre-sale from phase 2. And that 0.85 is what it is, acre lot is going to go for about 1.8 million. And that's on the upper end of the lots they have, right? So that's something to be aware of. That was going to be on the 10th hole. So kind of that, rotate, the back 9, right? So that's something to be aware of. Again, no true 1 acre lots. Prices are going to start on a lot at about $750,000, and some will go up almost to $2 million for a lot. So if you are interested in buying a lot and building, honestly, you should probably reach out sooner rather than later for a couple of reasons. One, lot choice and availability. If you don't really care about the exact size of the lot, you just want to make sure it works for a home, then get a cheaper lot. Or you want to make sure you buy the best lot, then you need to reach out so you can get the best lot. So something to be aware of. Next up, we're going to talk about some assumptions that people have had and what building actually looks like in Bluejack Ranch. Okay, now before we move further, I do want to touch on one, maybe not myth, but an assumption that I sort of had, and I've had some people reach out and they had the same assumption. And so I just want to clear that up. One interesting thing is that even at these price points where they are mentioning, the ability to build custom home sites, Bluejack Ranch is not allowing you to bring your own builder. So what that means is on the smaller products, you are getting some semi-custom homes. Like you're probably getting to choose some finish outs or some design choices. And then even on the estate lots, like the larger homes, you cannot bring your own builder. You have to work with their builders. You can bring your own architect so that you get your own designs, right? You can do everything you want on the design within reason, but they are only allowing certain architectural styles on the exterior of the home. That's something important to look at. They do have kind of a flip book that you can look through. I have access to that. Reach out if you'd like to see what some of these styles are. And that comes with some pros and cons. So one, it will allow for them to make sure the construction quality remains really high. Okay. Downside, you'll have less vendor options. You could have longer lead times. But you should also have a more streamlined approval process because the builder knows exactly what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And you're not going to have an outside builder coming in and trying to do something and then it doesn't work and everything kind of goes back and forth and then takes forever and having unexpected delays. So that's something important to be aware of and something that you might assume is different when you're looking at lots of this price that you should be able to do whatever you want. And they're really not doing that. So that's something else to consider. Are you okay with that? And at the end of the day, if the product's great, the product's great. Who cares who built it? But just something to be aware of. Okay, well, let's get into like your carrying or your holding costs separate from your mortgage right now. So we can talk about what you should expect. Now, one thing I want to point out up front is the tax rate, right? So the tax rate is going to be about 2.79%. And you're like, well, why is the tax rate so high? Because we're outside city limits. And similar to Kelly Ranch, Bluejack Ranch is getting its utilities, its water and its sewer from Crescent. So this is actually Crescent Mud 2, which I think is like the same tax rate as Kelly Ranch of 1%. So you have your basic, county level stuff that's around 1.8. Then you have your mud that's bringing in the utilities, making it about 2.79, 2.8%. So you are on the high end of the tax rates. The only other neighborhoods that compare to that are going to be Kelly Ranch and Morningstar, and they're all that high because they have MUDs. Then you're going to have your HOA or your COA, like your condominium owners association. So depending on what product you're in, whether it's like the Racket Retreat, the cottage homes, whatever, they're different names for their different products, your HOA could range from $3,700 a year to $5,300 a year. So definitely on the high end. I keep doing new videos and I keep talking about, I'll say this is the highest HOA in Aledo. And then I'll do another video like Kelly Ranch is higher than Walsh, and Walsh was previously the highest. So Kelly Ranch, I think I might've said was the highest currently, and then I'm now doing this video on Bluejack Ranch and it's also surpassing that, right? So your HOA could be as much as $5,300 a year. I think that's on the smaller unit. And it's like, well, why is that? And that's because the kind of the cottages and the horseshoe home stuff, you get exterior maintenance and a couple other things in those dues, right? And so your taxes are going to be higher than most other neighborhoods, and your HOA is going to be higher than most other neighborhoods. And this is not counting your golf membership, which I do not have access to. And I really don't know what that will be, right? That's probably going to be $1,000+ a month. If you are doing that, don't quote me on that. I'm just pulling some information, I think, from like Bluejack National, which this doesn't have to be anything like Bluejack National when it comes to cost. But you're going to have some pretty heavy carrying costs. But if you're buying a 1.2 to a 2.5 to a $3.4 million home, that's going to be expected, right? So that's something to be aware of. Your carrying costs are going to be higher. Depending on which product you get, you're going to have different level of kind of like services that come in with that. But then you're going to have like the normal community amenities separate from club amenities. So you're gonna have like the golf course or golf club amenities would not be included in your standard HOA fees, just to be super clear. Okay, is Bluejack even gonna be a great fit for you? Maybe, it depends on what you want, right? If you desire Aledo ISD for a variety of reasons, maybe you're gonna send your kids there. Maybe you just want it for the strong values and the resale value. But one, Aledo ISD, check. Two, do you want a really strong golf-centric community? Great. And there's a bunch of golf course communities in the DFW area. But do you want a very exclusive, private golf course community golf club membership style? Then you really narrow that down pretty significantly to a small handful of high-end courses and communities. So that's going to be some initial ones. Do you want some level of customization? Do you want new construction? Do you want to be able to make those decisions? Right now, if you're watching this video in 2025, do you want to be able to pick your lot rather than looking at a pre-owned home that someone already built? Do you want an estate lot where you get to do some full customization within the guidelines? But why would it not be for you? Honestly, if you want an acre or more, there's currently no availability on lots that large. And then two, do you want full custom, bring your own builder? That's not how Bluejack Ranch works either. You do have to build with their builder. So on one hand, if you are looking for something that is super exclusive, super high end, and super specific, and also willing to maybe flex on, do you actually need an acre or more? And or are you willing to build with someone else's builders? Now they're gonna be high end, they're gonna be quality, they're gonna be controlling a lot of that, but you have to be okay with not being able to bring your own builder. If those all kind of fit together for you, then you might be that buyer for Bluejack Ranch, right? And if you are, next, we're gonna get into how to effectively look for a home in Bluejack. Okay, so you've made it this far. So you're either just morbidly curious about what is going on over here, or you do fit that ideal buyer and you're heavily considering Bluejack Ranch. So what should you do to efficiently shop or decide what you want and how to proceed at Bluejack Ranch? So first, you should decide what product you want. Do you want the racket retreat? Do you want the horseshoe cabins, the horseshoe home style? Or are you planning on going, custom home estate lot style setup? Because that's gonna matter, right? If you really want that full estate lot style, but you don't have the budget for it, then it's not for you. So pick your product that you want. Then you have to figure out if your budget allows for that, because you're going to be looking at, if you're on the higher end, either the estate lots, you're going to have to add the lot, you're going to add the construction, you're going to have to figure out if your budget fits that. Now, a lot of these products are at least semi-custom. And then the estate lot, you can go really, I say not truly full, but pretty close to full, right? You still have to meet some pretty strict exterior guidelines, but you can do a lot of stuff that you want to do in there. And then the phases in the timeline. Do you want phase one? Are you looking at maybe waiting and going phase two? Currently, as the recording of this video, they are doing some pre-sales of phase two, but there's still phase one availability. So if you're wanting to check that out, let me know. And then membership expectations. So like I've mentioned in the video, Bluejack Ranch is not going to be a club where if you buy a home, you're automatically granted membership. It is going to be by invite only, even amongst the homeowners. And then you also need to budget in that membership, that initiation dues, and then the ongoing expense as well. And I believe from some online search I've done, Bluejack National currently is a little over $100,000 of initiation fees for new members. While these numbers could change, I do believe that Bluejack Ranch is going to have two separate membership levels. One would be kind of limited golf use and would be less than that. And the other would be full club, full golf, full access to all amenities, and could be significantly more than that. Definitely in the six figures. Low six figures, but definitely in the six figures. So does that work with your budget? And apparently you just can't buy your membership, right? So I don't know what that invite only thing looks like. I don't know if they're making sure that everyone on the golf course is a good golfer. I don't know if they're trying to make sure that there's some other kind of arbitrary category separate from ownership in the neighborhood is part of that. But what I will say is, if you are considering this, before you fly out, reach out to me. Let's figure out some of the details. Let's get some basic availability from the developer before you fly out, so that when you're here, we can make sure we're being super precise and super effective on what we're doing and the time we're spending if you are looking at investing in a community of this level. Okay, now as we wrap up, I think a couple of the most important things to remember, separate from like how crazy awesome this place is going to be, is that one, you can't bring your own builder. Two, there are no 1+ acre lots. And three, that membership is not guaranteed by home ownership, right? And I don't mean to be negative, but I think like when you're spending this amount of money, you should be super clear on what the kind of like the downsides or your concerns could be. So I think you need to make sure you are fully remember that, and you make sure you're okay with that, or that you at least know what you're getting into. So if you are thinking about moving to Aledo area and you haven't yet reached out to me, let's do that. Let's start a conversation. If you have a trip planned, if you need to come lay eyes on something, reach out. I can get information for you beforehand so we can review it. We can see what lots are available. We can look at the map, figure out what might be good. And that way, when you're here, we can really hone in on what's best for you and your family. So reach out if there's anything I can do, and I'll see you next time.